And the premise is that Sam Loudermilk, a recovering alcoholic and substance abuse counselor with just a shitty attitude, pisses everyone off. And I'm like, oh, it's Peter, but not in a tech startup. Just like out in the world doing that. It's like there's a great scene that one of my favorite scenes is like he goes into a coffee shop and he's talking to a girl.
So why are you talking like that?
Yeah. Why are you talking like that?
Yeah, it's like nobody talks like that.
It's like, no, there it is.
You're such a dick, man. There it is.
You're talking.
Using a regular voice.
So that's the show Loudermilk.
Oh, that's what that's for. I had no idea what that was from. I thought that was from a movie. I was like trying to find it.
No. It's
good to know.
Trust me. Yeah.
Did you know that over $5 trillion exchanges hands on a daily basis? That's an average of over $220 billion an hour. Now, how does this much money move every single day, and why does it move the way it does? Here on Drunkenomics, two bartenders who also happen to be students at the University of Nebraska Graduate School of Business are going to sit down and drink to the global economy and try and translate it into English. So sit back, relax, pour yourself a stiff one, and have a drink with us to the comedy that is the global economy. All right, everybody, guess what? Welcome back to yet another presentation of Drunkenomics. This is the drinking podcast with an economics problem. Hopefully you have a nice stiff one in front of you. I mean, my drink this week isn't that stiff. I'm just going with beer. What are you going with?
I'm still sipping. I'm back. It's still just, we're in rum country.
Wow.
I regret nothing.
No, yeah, I mean, what is there to regret? You know,
your rum choice, but I mean, yeah, no, it's fair.
Oh, why? Is it spiced? Or is it dark, or what kind of rum is it?
Just silver, just a
oh,
white
okay,
Bacardi.
No, I totally, okay, yeah, there is, maybe there's room for regret, but I mean, either way, save that for later.
Oh yeah, no, it's not like,
so
it's not like, and like as a rum snob, I'll say like, the reason spiced rum exists is because they took cheap, bad, like poor quality rum and they said, how can we get people to drink this? Spice it, send it.
No, that'll do it. It's kind of like putting bitters in whiskey sometimes, you know, if you want to look at it like that. But anyways, hopefully you have a nice stiff one in front of you, unless of course you're about to drive somewhere or are currently driving.
Absolutely not.
Or are working. In that case, just, wait a second, wait till a more appropriate time.
Wait till the time is right.
Yeah.
I have a weird question.
Uh-huh.
Who are you?
I am the more great. Wait, hold on. Am I the more?
You are.
Yeah, because I don't know what the VIX is at today. I haven't really.
Oh, it wasn't the VIX. You're the MGH because that Zebra crew in Kansas City were wearing Kansas City clothes. Like it was.
Yeah, there was a jersey swap between the refs and Pat Mahomes or something like that after the game. That was pretty bad.
Oh man, absolutely.
Yeah, and I hate to be more gracious this way because I was actually rooting for the Bengals. Like I like Zach Taylor. Yeah. I want the Husker alum to be coaching the Super Bowl.
Here's what I'll say for it. So that makes you Aaron Wong, more gracious host, by hook or by crook.
By crook this time. Unfortunately.
Which makes me what? James Goldwater, less gracious host, LGH.
You need to change that name in Discord, man. What's going on?
I do. I will change it. I will change it ever so short. I will change it sometime tonight.
Yeah.
But what I'll say is this. I'm gonna go with that. I was originally really upset and think they were cheating for the Chiefs. I've amended my views. That Zebra crew loves Drunkenomics. Clearly, they want Aaron to be MGH, and they had to make it happen.
I don't think so. I don't want to be on the same side of the Zebra crew.
Correlation is not causation.
Yeah, let's just put it at that because I don't really want to be on the same side of the fence as the Zebra crew, man. Blue is just not doing anybody any favors right now. They're blowing the games. But
that was pretty bad.
Whatever. So glad you all can join us. Speaking of the Discord, if you want to find the link to the Discord, you can find us on social media first at Drunkenomical, DRUNK, That's us on Facebook and Instagram, and then of course separately on Twitter. We do have a TikTok, even though we don't really use it. We probably should start using it.
We should. While supplies last. So like between TikTok and Twitter, I don't know which one's going to go away first, but I mean, it'll be interesting to watch.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And then of course, you can find the link to our Discord, free to all. Following us on any of those platforms is free to all, just in case you're wondering. I mean, I don't know if people were wondering that.
Yeah, we're not billing for that yet. And I don't think look,
I don't know that we
maybe
ever will.
One day. I don't know. I doubt it though.
If it's $8 for a blue check mark, I mean,
too steep.
Yeah, I know. That's I don't know if I can justify
what I will
cost.
say is when you jump in the Discord, you'll get to you can ask us questions, you can talk to each other, you can definitely discuss some non-financial advice. But I also want to declare the Drunkenomical Pub open.
I did see that.
It is the home for all Drunkenomical recipes from us, from you, and with each other. I started
Yeah.
off with the Manhattan that Aaron and I bonded over. I call it the official Drunkonomics Manhattan. It is drunkonomical in that it requires us to do as few dishes as possible and helps us cut every corner we can because that's also drunkonomical.
Yes, that is absolutely my favorite way to make a Manhattan at home. If I was gonna make, when I was bartending, I didn't make it like that because I'm not sloppy.
There's a show. There's a show. People expect
exactly.
a certain thing, but when it's you and you're at home, you're like, look, I don't need to stir it and then pour it and strain it.
I just use a lemon peel and I stir the cocktail with my lemon peel. After I squeeze express the oils out into the drink, you just take that little lemon peel and you stir it around, and then there you go. There's your Manhattan, right? Congratulations.
And your gold, right as rain.
And then from there, you know what? I'm gonna drop a recipe in there this weekend.
Ooh,
the Rusty
look
Nail.
Forward to.
Yeah, my favorite drink. My favorite drink ever.
We also have complete from our boys down under.
I can't believe you came up with a name for this. Yes,
I'm glad they did because I really didn't care for the name that I was using initially.
Yeah, same here.
Complete from the boys down under, the Pink Aussie. Go ahead and jump on it.
Yeah,
it worked. It's not. I mean, my favorite part though is, and I'll be honest, the plastic cup.
The plastic cup definitely makes it the Pink Aussie.
It's got to be a plastic cup, and everything's got to be stored in an esky, and that's for my boys down under. And then, of course, Todd coming in hot with a Vermont breakfast. Yeah. And
that's the hangover cure for sure.
I didn't know that had a name. I just thought it was like, for me, it was just like, all right, I've done it before. It's great. I don't know what to call it. So look, we're all out here learning.
It is a very Vermonty drink, the maple bourbon.
It makes absolute sense
drink.
that it's a maple bourbon. And
absolutely. Well, also, remember when you talked about the Fireball rum chata combination?
Absolutely, we got the Powerball from
Glormar.
From Glormar, and her husband who came up with the Powerball. And look, I'll be honest with you. Some of the most brilliant things Aaron and I have ever come up with, we were drinking at the time. You guys get to be the victims of one of those things. It is, in fact, this podcast.
That's one of the problems.
I said victims, I mean beneficiaries. Who knows? No, it's your call.
A little column A, a little column B. Mm-hmm. But seriously, we love the interaction from you guys. It's seriously a lot of fun. I mean, I love drinking with you guys. This is really a great pleasure every single week.
It is something to look forward to. So
yeah, it really is. And speaking of great pleasures, the Fed decided to increase interest rates today. Today is Wednesday, February 1st. So we're 1 out of 12 down for the year 2023 already. Went by like that.
Oh, you never know. There could be an emergency meeting.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying 1 out of 12 months down. I'm saying 1 out of 12 months down. I don't know how Fed meetings. How many Fed meetings are there? You're 8, right?
Like
8, right?
Because we don't. There's what not because there's not a January one.
Yeah, they always skip one like in late July.
Yeah.
I think they skip one.
They skip summer in July. Yeah, they have to go on vacation.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, they deserve it. All the work that they do.
Or don't.
They work so hard. That's what I was getting at. Yeah, but I think this Fed meeting was just kind of like, we don't want to screw anything up, so we'll just do 25 basis points. I actually thought they were going to do 25. I was kind of sitting on the fence of 50.
Yeah. I was hoping they'd stick to 50 because I understand both sides of it. And like the real issue is and this is just kind of me looking at it, is at this point, maybe the short-term rate, which is what we're really talking about here, the overnight rate, the short-term rate and what that's at doesn't affect what's happening in necessarily the real world. There's the real rate out there. It's still negative. And so for me, it's like, okay, you can't curb actual inflationary pressure until you incentivize not spending.
Right.
And when you're you're losing money by saving it or buying power by saving money, you haven't done that.
Well, and this is the other thing too, is there's so much debt. I mean, the federal government is in so much debt right now. And I think a lot of that is maturing this year. I think we talked about it.
Yeah. And we're going to see rollover, but
yeah. So they're going to have to roll over that debt. When you roll it over, the debt used to be, 1 or 2% interest. Now it's 4 to 5% interest.
4 to 5. Yeah.
So
475. Highest ceiling is 475 now.
Yeah. The range is 450 to 475.
Yeah.
So that's the Fed funds rate range ish, right? So that's, now that's the range, they have to refile their debt. They have to roll over all their debt.
Make it look attractive at that.
Yeah. Like, one, is there going to be a liquidity issue? Like, are people actually going to buy these loans? Which I think they will, because if they, because like if you roll over debt at 4.5% interest or 4.75% interest, and you think that they're going to lower rates in the next year, why wouldn't you buy? the bond.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yeah. And,
So-
and it's, you're starting to see some of the banks, some of their people coming out and saying like, hey, we expect to see 2.5% at the end of the year. And I'm like, well, then these bonds that are being issued now, not that any bonds are being issued right now. Fun fact, right? No bonds are being issued
Right.
at present. So, right, debt ceiling, we've hit it. We're in extraordinary measures. So no new debt's
Yeah.
being issued.
There we go.
I mean, kind
Yeah.
of I've read a very good description on what the debt ceiling argument is, and it's essentially a group of alcoholics at the bar deciding on a limit for how many drinks they're going to have, and when they hit that number of drinks, they start a big argument about raising it to more drinks, and it's just like, well, no, that's actually pretty accurate.
Yeah,
So
or
that's just fair.
suspending the
And
drink
they-
limit for a while, or whatever.
suspending
you
the
know?
drink limit, and then well, we're going to suspend the drink limit for another
Yeah.
hour.
And then, of course,
Um,
I guess
and that's actually
you could call it default, like when the bartender cuts your wristband off.
Yeah, it's either
don't
you
know.
getting cut off
No,
or you getting so drunk you can't order the next round.
Yeah,
I don't know what that is. So here's a
incoherent.
water. yeah. It's definitely one of those things where it's like,
Yeah.
okay, there's no new debt being issued, but there's also there's not currently a means to pay. Well, there
Yeah.
is to pay debt that's maturing, but it's like I said, we're in the extraordinary measures now, and so yeah, it's not great because when they do inevitably do something about the debt ceiling, you'll
Yeah.
see a
I
whole rash of new debt at auction at much higher coupon rates.
Yeah.
Then the problem becomes 1 month, 6 months, 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 year, 30 year, and it's
Right, duration, the duration question.
the life of that bond. And
Yeah.
it's like, okay, are we really convinced that it's going to be just a good thing at this point? And the answer is obviously no.
Right. I think one of the things we're probably going to have to look at the Fed, like, I think this really, if I might say, I don't know why the timing of these Fed meetings are when they are, because if you guys are going to meet in February, right, and make a decision February 1st, like, why can't you just push it back a few days after the jobs report comes out? Or do you already have access to the January job report?
I think
And
they
it's only
do.
February 1st.
If not the
Right.
report, I think they have access to the same data.
Okay.
If we're all looking at the same spreadsheet, if you and I are looking at the same spreadsheet and I'm publishing a report Wednesday and you look at it and you and I are talking privately, I can go, this is what I'm going to say. And you can
Okay.
go, ooh, I should probably do something to get ahead of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you probably should. And so
Yeah.
it's a what is it? When it comes to insider trading, is it material inside information?
Yeah.
And the answer when it comes to things like this is yes.
Yeah, well, and even the Federal Reserve, I really doubt that they can, on February 1st, and mind you, they met for the last 2 days to talk about what they're going to do, right?
Yeah.
And they had all the, each district president come in and talk about what they're seeing in their region and all that
Yeah,
kind of stuff.
what their data's showing.
Yeah, they had all these, brilliant people, quote unquote brilliant people come in and say all these things, but they did, they don't have the most recent economic data. They're still going off of data that they saw from January, employment numbers and all that kind of, payroll numbers, CPI data, like all that is still 3 weeks old. So I don't know. Is it rational to make a decision? And granted, whenever interest rates change, it doesn't really affect anything.
It doesn't affect
in
you
terms of money
immediately.
supply until like a year.
Yeah.
So
Unless it's drastic, right? So when it's a non-drastic move like this,
Yeah.
it's not going to have a huge
yeah,
effect.
well, like 75
to
basis points.
me,
I guess the quote unquote jumbo rate hikes from last year, those were kind of quote unquote drastic, right?
Yeah.
Obviously those had an effect because interest expense got insane, way more expensive
Mm-hmm.
almost overnight. So
yeah, potential interest expense shoots up, right? And so we know from a very simple statement by Charlie Munger, which is that EBITDA, right? EBITDA is bullshit earnings, right? Because it's EBITDA. So interest, taxes,
depreciation, amortization.
Those are costs associated with running your business. If you don't pay your taxes, you don't exist long. If you don't pay your interest, you don't exist long. If you don't do your depreciation or your amortization, I guess those are slightly less problematic because those are non-cash expenses.
Yeah.
But these are costs associated with being a business. So it's like, it'd be like me saying like, well, look, my blood oxygen before breathing is solid. It's like, well, if you stop, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
This doesn't work anymore. So it's one of those things where, like, if interest suddenly shoots up, you have an issue. Now, if you're a financial company, you like that because it means you can turn around and then issue new loans at a higher rate to improve your financials. But if you're the borrower, demand is obviously lower.
But it's still challenging because, even in this environment, I think one of the big questions is, are we or are we not in a recession? And I think we've been in a recession, me personally, but it's been a shallow one. It's not it's something deep.
It's a weird, like I said, this is the weirdest recession we've ever been in. And like they declared last year that wasn't a recession. It was. met the textbook definition.
I think it was, but it's a very weird one. It's not, it's not like a normal.
It's not your standard, like, there's no panic. It doesn't seem to be panic yet. Really fast though, none of these are the opinions of our employers. This is just our opinion. So if it reflects the view of our employers or anyone that we're involved with in that respect, this is purely coincidental. Should probably put that disclaimer out there as we're talking about this. But no, to me, I think you've got a lot of. I think a lot of the stock market rallies we've seen in the last few weeks, maybe even the last kind of like any good day in the market, is fueled by people deciding that they can see a light at the end of the tunnel.
It's like, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, if you think that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, like, why wouldn't you buy in?
Well, exactly right.
It's impossible to time.
But here's my quick warning. That might just be a train coming at you.
Absolutely. No, you're not wrong.
So
I think there are multiple ways to look at it. Are we on the cusp of everything turning around? Everybody's still thinking that, 100% chance of recession. If you look at Bloomberg, I think Bank of America, and was it Bank of America? I could be way off on this, but
I've seen quite a few.
It was Jamie Dimon.
Jamie Dimon that said,
the CEO of JP Morgan said that 100% chance of recession is in the cards. And he's not holding those cards particularly close to his chest. I mean, he's saying like, okay, I
think he wants people to see him.
Yeah,
here's my response to that. And this is where I'm gonna funnily, perhaps not. I don't know if that's a word. I will humorously digress from my historical comments. Right. So historically, when we saw the bad markets in 2020, and I said this is not the economy. This is the stock market. Yeah. A stock market crash is not recession.
No.
Right. The stock market is the tail. It should be reflective of the dog, not wagging the dog.
Well, I mean, we all know that's not true anymore. I mean, I think the more you study the stock market, the more you realize that it's very much forward thinking. And I think the more the stock market gets studied, the more forward thinking it becomes.
Yes. The problem is it's forward thinking in that, like, oh, we've already priced in the bad news. No, you haven't.
No,
you haven't.
It's impossible.
You've ignored the bad news. So that's like the bad news hit it 5 times and it panics each time when it like rereads the same headline. But then it gets like some tiny amount of good news, like this little, like, it's like, they only cut off your hand, not your whole arm, and the stock market goes like, this is brilliant, great news. And it's like, it
doesn't work like that. Right, but I think to your point, I think the reason why we've seen all these, I guess, quote unquote, bear market rallies, these dead cat bounces, whatever you want to call it, and if you do think it's the bottom, right? If you do think it's a trough, I don't want to divert you from your thesis, but I think the reason why we are seeing this is I think people are just like, okay, look, 25 basis points means that, last I checked, that's lower than 50. And last I checked, that's lower than 75. So we're getting closer to a pivot. Why not try and bet on the pivot happening now? And
get it on the pivot. Get in before the pivot. And I can understand that mentality. The difference isn't.
That's not my mentality. I'm just saying I think that's why it's
I was going to say, I don't think
happening.
It is. I think there's a lot of people that do think that way. Yeah. For me, as I looked at the presser, as I looked at the Q&A, as I looked at the statement, boy, you're right. They came down to 25, and I think they're going to stick to 25 for a while. But I'm reading these op-ed pieces that are like, and I realize like this is just an op-ed piece. It's just my op-ed versus their op-ed. But they're sitting here going, there are probably 1 or 2 more, and then it's over, and then there'll be no increases. And my response is that is not what I'm reading. What I'm reading is they're like, we've decided we don't need to go big, but we do need to keep this up. And I think they're right, because here's the big problem that the Fed's looking at. If they haven't actually curbed inflation, and I mean real inflation, I don't mean TVs and used cars. I mean, if they haven't done anything about inflation on food and energy and home prices and housing, if they haven't solved essential inflation on like the actual everyday consumables, then when things go bad, it's going to get so much worse, because they'll be at a point where the one tool that the Federal Reserve has to deal with this is, we'll just lower interest rates. We'll ease the money supply. And it's like, if you haven't killed inflation, welcome. Now it's stagflation. Now it is stagflation.
Yeah.
Now it's runaway inflation and a recession. How'd you do it?
Yeah, well, I guess now that kind of begs the question, like, okay, is raising interest rates by 25 versus 75, is that going to help or hurt egg prices? next month.
So
Or-
I
right,
had a
like-
very interesting conversation about why egg prices and chicken are where they're at.
Wasn't there like
Would you-
some
would you-
sort of disease going on? Like,
So one, there is an avian flu. There is an avian
okay,
flu
that's
going
what I
around,
thought.
so they're destroying.
Interest rates aren't going to help with that, right? Like, I mean,
rates
75,
can't help that.
25, doesn't matter. None of that's going to help.
There's a second. There's
you
a
know?
second part, and it's from someone
Okay.
who I know who works in. I don't necessarily want to disclose exactly where they work,
Just
but
what
they
industry? Yeah.
they work in meats essentially. They
Okay.
they have their ear to the ground on meat
Sure, yeah.
production, both nationally and internationally. So they are
Okay.
very involved in very specific aspects of this business. And
Okay.
it turns out they have a lot of chicken farmers in the U.S. A lot of poultry farmers have changed the strain of chicken they're raising. They've changed out the roosters, and the roosters aren't as interested as historically the roosters have been. So on top of chickens being destroyed and everything because of avian flu, there are also substantially fewer chickens being born because, like I said, the roosters aren't interested.
That's weird. And I've always, I don't want to get too deep into the weeds of this stuff, but chicken farming has always been kind of like a weird, because like it's the chicken and the egg, right? So,
Mhm.
I don't want to go into like, did the chicken or the egg come first? I don't, come on.
Yeah.
But, it's so weird because if you look at chickens in the 50s and you look at chickens now,
That's a
right?
substantially different bird. It's a
it's-
much bigger bird
It's a
now.
way, way bigger bird. There's so much more meat in a chicken now, and they grow so much faster. Like,
Yes.
they reach like their full size way faster than I forget
Absolutely.
what the rate is. It's like chicken's like less than a year old, and it's already
It's
like 5 pounds or
and
whatever.
it's orders
And
of
they can't even-
magnitude. It's not even like it's like
Yeah.
this is like 20% bigger. It's like no, this is 3 times the size.
No, yeah, the chicken's so much bigger, yeah, and they get so big so fast that they can't even stand, right? Like, like chickens have a tough time standing up for a long enough period
Yeah.
of time.
Now,
But, like, I mean, how do you like? I don't know if the Fed can kill chicken demand,
No.
right? It's just not.
Oh, I can tell you that so long as the roosters are not interested in helping the hens create more fertilized eggs and therefore more chickens, interest rates won't do anything to that. Interest rates
Yeah.
won't do anything for avian flu causing animals to be
Right.
slaughtered, thus decreasing the supply of eggs. There's nothing the Federal Reserve can do about that.
Yeah.
You can't.
Eh,
There's to my
maybe
knowledge,
what they
there's
can
no
do-
Viagra for chickens.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, maybe they'll come up with that at some point. Odds are they probably will, or maybe it already exists, right? But no thanks for sure, no thanks to the Fed, right?
Yeah,
So,
it's
you know,
not it's
but-
just not there.
yeah, but I think they're trying to do all the tools necessary, but I think even if they raise interest rates, I mean, it's not like it's going to help with production costs and logistics costs for
No, in
farmers and
fact,
things like that.
raising interest
yeah.
rates actually, we know or should know, most of us, if you think about if you stop and think about this, raising
Yeah.
interest rates actually slows down production of agricultural goods specifically.
Yeah,
it is
normally
more
does.
expensive to
to move
acquire
things
new
around, to
machinery.
ship- you have to start kind of flexing your options, going like, okay, man, I can't buy this thing, so I'll lease it, right? But the lease becomes more expensive.
Lease is now more
because-
expensive,
because
or
interest rates are.
or even
Yeah.
if let's say old man Kalinsky at the farm next door is selling the farm, and you want to expand your acreage, it's going to cost you more money to acquire that now because the mortgage on the land is necessarily more expensive with a higher interest rate. So then you have
And then
to
if
to make improvements to that land or
Yeah, that
replace
costs-
the
that-
equipment or
Yeah, and then you
right?
have to
This is
hire
all-
people to do that, right? And that, like, so the money just becomes more expensive, right? If you want to think about it, like buying power becomes
Yeah.
more expensive, and it comes at a price. The benefit, obviously, is now you can buy a quote unquote risk-free government bond that has never defaulted, quote unquote, right? Hopefully it stays that
not
way.
yet.
Yes, not yet, right? But that's kind of the benefit, right? It's like you can park your money into a government asset, and it's going to yield 4% ish if you hold it to maturity, depending on if you sell it early or later, or whatever your goal with that thing is. But that's the benefit. But the downside is, like everything else becomes more expensive.
In the long
You
run.
know,
Right.
Yeah.
So is that going to affect the grain this year? No.
exactly. Like, and does it affect demand for chicken? Like, not really.
Yeah.
Like,
Chicken is one of those things where no matter how hard in the US, let's be fair, people aren't going to switch to duck. They're not going to switch to goose. You might see a switch to turkey, but It's not
I think that's
the same.
I think the turkey thing is very cyclical.
Well, yeah, I don't know why the prices always spike in November, but someone should get on that. We should get the Drunkonomics intern on that.
Yeah, can someone take a look into that, please?
Get back to us.
But I just think, so there's that, like, I did see that just based on what the San Francisco Fed is saying, the Fed balance sheet is still massive. They've rolled off $445 billion of bonds since June, which sounds like a lot, but it really isn't that much.
It's dropped
still
in the bucket.
$8 trillion balance. Yeah, it's a drop in the bucket. It's still an $8 trillion balance sheet.
I guess 445, so that's what 1/16th of what's currently there.
So congratulations.
Which,
like I guess
7%.
I guess to your point,
yeah,
that's not insignificant. Yeah, an eighth is a 12th, so it was 12%. So yeah, a little shy of 7%, right? So yeah, I mean, I don't know. They rolled off 7% of their balance sheet. Congratulations. That's not insignificant. As a matter of fact, San Francisco Fed, so I think that's Mary Daly. She's saying the roll off is about if the roll off of the balance sheet is about 2% like of additional rate hikes, right? So she's quoting that's a really aggressive quote, I think, because the previous quote was 75 basis points. Like, the roll off was about 75 basis points, like the equivalent of a 75 basis point rate hike on top of whatever the overnight rate is in terms of the borrowing of money expense. So I don't know. I still don't think any of this is really helping. Like, if you think about, does it compress real estate prices? Yeah, I mean, we're seeing that happen, but I still think,
so that
it's going to cause maybe some sort of liquidity issue. I mean, I don't want to cry wolf, but it might cause a liquidity issue in the bond market.
I think the bond market. I mean, I just don't. I don't know what's happening in the bond market. I think the shortage of new U.S. of new U.S. Treasuries is going to affect the bond market. Lack thereof. And the thing is, like, they're saying it'll be June or July before we see, or, it'll be several months before we see resolution on the debt ceiling. And the answer to that is, unfortunately, that's true. Well, things never move quickly in Washington, and they definitely won't now.
No, well, I think, honestly, like, okay, so if they don't issue new debt, I really think all that does is it pushes the end of the yield curve down. Because if you wanted a 20-year government loan, you can buy a 20-year government loan, right? Yeah. But it's probably a 30-year loan that has...
It has 20 years left.
That's got a 20-year term left, right?
Yeah. So you can find the life somewhere to balance your portfolio. It's absolutely right. The problem is that that will drive up demand in different classes and different fixed income security classes.
That's what I'm saying. It pushes the end of the curve down. But then again,
the yield curve at least.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, sorry. They push that end of the yield curve down just because more demand in that is going to drive up prices, which is going to compress the yield.
Absolutely.
But, yeah. So that's what I meant in that aspect. But then again, it also depends, because I think, I don't think anybody is going crazy about lengthening duration. So I don't know. I mean, maybe they are, but I just don't.
It's been what, 2 weeks? I think for me, it'll be April, May. Yeah. If they're still negotiating, that's when you're going to see the panic actually start to set in bond markets, where they go, ooh, are we holding bonds that are no good?
Yeah.
And here's the big question. I'm holding a bond that right now is AAA rated. There's a little bit of an issue. Yeah. That's okay. Whatever. Everyone's got the issue. It's not a problem. But when I start to get towards the point where I think a ratings agency is going to devalue or lower the credit rating on the bond, which that happened in 2011. In 2011, for those of you who don't remember.
It almost happened in 2021 too. Yeah.
Yeah, but the credit rating agencies came out and they marked down U.S. securities. They marked down U.S. Treasury securities, even though they did not default. They didn't default, but the simple threat that they might was enough for Moody's, I think, to come out and say, we're devaluing. It wasn't for long, but it was for long enough to go, hey, this is not okay. And that caused a certain amount of panic for the guys in the banks holding them, who were like, oh, my model requires me now to change the value I'm allowed to place on these. And that can then affect a bank's liquidity.
Yeah, no, it definitely can, especially if you're trying to say, hey, these bonds are collateralized, right? Mm-hmm. Well, like that thing that you're trying to get as you put up these government bonds that just got downgraded for collateral, you're putting those bonds up for collateral that are worth a lot less now because the collateral
only because they've been downgraded.
Yeah,
this bundle was worth $700, whatever you want to put on that, whatever denomination at the end dollars, and now they're saying actually it's only $500 now because now you and I both know that they're probably still worth $700 because we know that the government has raised the debt ceiling. They will be paid.
Yeah.
But because they've been downgraded. So if I'm the bank
Technically-
bundling these and trying to move them to someone in exchange,
Yeah.
I know they're worth more, but I can't compel you to believe me. As the buyer
Right,
of that,
exactly.
I would look. Never pay more than you have to.
Yeah.
that's just
Never pay
that's
more
just
than you have to.
drunkenomics.
Yeah, no, that's yeah, exactly. That's Druckonomics 101. Never pay more than you have to, and if you try to sell something, try to get it for as high of a price as you
Sell it for
possibly
as much as you can.
But
Yeah.
you're
Never leave extra money on the table.
yeah,
either
exactly.
side of it.
Yeah, but your hands are kind of tied when all of a sudden this is downgraded. It's so
Yeah, it's a good day. It's a good day if you're the buyer. It's a bad day if you're the seller.
Yeah.
To sit there and play
Exactly,
that game,
yeah.
and then a
And it's
week
not-
later, Moody's raises the rating again, and so that buyer got a steal.
Yeah, well, and
We're
this
back
is
to
the thing
Thomas
about
Crown, right?
Yeah,
Right there.
exactly. Yeah.
That-
So, but that's the thing about Moody's. Rating agencies are always behind the market, right? So, like,
Mm-hmm.
usually the price of a bond will fall, and then Moody's will be like, "Oh, yeah, let me downgrade this real quick."
Yeah,
or,
well, it's,
you know, or S&P
well, it's
or
also
Fitch,
you
right?
see it's the same thing when you see like the banks when they do like when they give an opinion on it. Oh, this is a buy or a strong buy or a hold or a sell on an
Yeah.
asset on a security.
Yeah,
You know,
it's like,
my
well,
personal favorite is,
I mean, the
is,
stock
is,
is
it
cratered.
one of the banks this week? Yeah, probably a sell at this point. Or maybe they'll go with the sell-off's over. It's a buy now.
Yeah.
Um,
You know, I guess bringing it back to the Fed, I mean, you know, I think they're just facing a lot of pressure from Washington because they know interest expense. If you look at just the interest expense chart for the Federal Reserve or for the federal government, actually, I mean, it's not a secret. Like,
yeah, it's there. It's up there.
you know,
it's
like-
not insubstantial.
well, it's going up like quite a bit. So I think
ain't getting
the
smaller.
Fed is starting. I think they're going to get pressure from Washington. Depends if they cave or not, and depends where their interests are.
Look,
but-
here's
you
the
know.
thing. And this is what I wish was. It probably is understood. I just wonder when they're gonna when the guys at the Fed are gonna pull this out. But I think it's very simple to think or to understand is that if you're a member of the Fed now, you're not going to get retained next cycle. You're out. No matter who's president, you're not being nominated again. So Jay Powell, this is it. You have this tenure and you're gone. Do the right thing.
Yeah,
Whether that
so
light
like-
at the end, whether that light you see is the light at the end of the tunnel or the train coming to kill you.
Yeah.
When you're done, when you get to that light, it's over.
Well, I
just do the right thing.
It's not even do the right thing. It's just like do what you say. Do what you said you're going to do.
Do
right?
the
And
job.
that's it.
Unemployment is not an issue right now.
No.
Inflation is. Tame it. And if
Yeah.
it sets off a recession, deal with that then.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, and I've been on this train, and I think this is very much an unpopular opinion, but I think Jerome Powell is doing an excellent job. But I think what he did, like what he's doing, is going to be studied for a very, very long time.
Oh, I
Because
agree.
This is not, I mean, this is not a normal economic environment. Like the Fed balance sheet.
Oh no, I blame Greenspan for this. I blame Greenspan. For
Okay,
this.
cool enough. Yeah, I
Yeah,
really
yeah.
touch on disagreeing with you on that.
It's-
But I think
to be fair, it's not all his fault, but he didn't help.
right. But I think, you know, we're still on the cycle where I think, okay, employment is we're starting to see the job market contract, which I think that's what the Fed just needs to see
Yeah,
the labor
they
market.
need to see slowing.
Yeah. But I still think, you know, it's like when someone brought this up on TV, you know, I saw on CNBC, they're like, we need to see contractions. We need to see help wanted signs in small businesses come down.
Yeah.
If we see the labor market catch up for small businesses, not for S&P multi-billion-dollar companies,
Yeah.
we need to see contractions for, you know, your local restaurants and retail stores, right? Like once that starts happening, then the Fed will, I think it'll kind of get released in their beige books or whatever it is. But like once they start seeing that, once that starts getting reported to Jerome Powell, then he'll be like, okay, maybe we'll pivot. But
See,
you know,
for me, I absolutely agree with you that that's a great metric and that's a great indicator. But to me, I think, and it's a very simple thing, at the very least, you have to see a non-negative real interest rate.
yes,
You have
that
to see
too.
a positive
Yeah,
interest
that's a
rate.
big one.
Real
Yeah.
interest rate. Even if it's just zero, you can't
Well, yeah.
you can't have inflation that exceeds your savings rate. It
Yeah.
doesn't work. You can't. It doesn't work.
I
can't-
think the Fed will just be happy with this zero. And this is the thing too.
Yeah.
Like, so
I'd be
if you,
at this point. They've beaten me down. I'd be happy with zero.
yeah, but this is the thing is like you don't need to keep raising interest rates.
Not
to-
happy, but
Yeah, yeah,
I'd be
no, I know
less
what you mean.
discontent.
Yeah, but like you don't need to keep raising interest rates to see a like I think if you just keep interest rates here, right, or maybe not here, maybe you bring it to 5%, right, and then kind of see what happens, right? So 5%, and then just let it sit there for a while and see
Maybe
if
one
CPI
meeting.
comes down.
see
Yeah,
see if inflation comes to meet, and if inflation keeps coming to meet, I'd be like, okay, we can.
Yeah.
I might go a quarter again to get them there. And the only reason I say that is if the recession is coming this year, it only has 11 months to do it in now.
Yeah.
As you've pointed out, one down. You need to get a positive real interest rate before that hits. Otherwise, your main tool doesn't work.
Yeah.
Breaks everything. And so you need to be like, right. We talked about how like what in 2020 they shot their arrows way too early. And it's like, well, great. Now you don't have anything except for extraordinary powers.
Well, in 2020 wasn't even the precipice. It was like, 2018. Why were interest rates so low in 2018?
Yeah, why were you lowering rates? It doesn't make sense. Right. Why? You're saying the fundamentals of the economy are strong. Then why are you doing expansionary policy?
Yeah. So, okay, in 2020, because interest rates were so low for such a long time, in 2020, it's like, okay, well, this economic disaster happened. We had no idea what to do. We had to cut rates to something, but rates were already so low. What could you possibly cut it to? So, like you said, they shot the arrows.
I'll be honest when I'll say this. In 2018, the reason Fed rates were getting cut, that was our girl Jay Yells. That is her fault.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
Janet, we got to talk about. We have to talk about that, Janet. That's on you. Yeah. I love what you're doing at Treasury, but
well, I mean, we know.
I'm shaking my head about 2016 to 2018.
Yeah, I mean, but
I'll be honest, a few years before that too. But we know she's a dove.
Yeah, we all know she's a dove.
Yeah, so, she's WJ.
I mean, now I think that's what it comes down to is, okay, so what you said and what I said, right? So we need to see real interest rate 0 or above.
Non-negative.
Right, non-negative, yeah. And I think they need to bring the rates to about 5%. Just let it sit there for a while, see if inflation comes down to it, right? Which I understand if you don't want to...
I wish we were at 5% now. Because I'd be like, okay, February, because the next meeting's at the end of March. It's like, okay, we're going to get 2 full months for inflation to do that.
Yeah, I think the cadence is 7 weeks, but I don't know. But
it's like, okay, if they were at 5% now, I'd be like, okay, I can sit this one out and watch.
Yeah,
but we're not.
Yeah, you can sit it out. Yeah, you can sit out and watch and say like, you know what, we're going to be data dependent, right? Like,
and so that 2%,
they've been saying that for such a long time.
But it's still, but it's a 2% difference right now.
Yeah, because CPI is at 6.5 ish, right? So like. And I think it's going to come
4.5 to 4.75. So yeah, I think you're right. I don't know. I think we'll probably see 6.
Yeah, I hope so. But then again, like it still depends. Like month over month, is it getting better? Is inflation getting better month over month? So you can't just look at it year over year.
No,
look at
you can't.
Yeah,
because the last few years don't help each other. It doesn't. It's incongruous data.
Yeah, and what's the other inflation metric? It's CPI, and then there's the.
Well, there's CPI and then
PCE, the PCE, right?
Yeah,
that's the one.
Yeah,
personal consumption. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's right.
Personal consumption expenditures. Yeah,
expenditures. Yeah.
So the Fed likes to look at that, right? Like they don't actually. I don't know why everybody talks about CPI because CPI is just such a dumb basket of goods.
It is a dumb basket. In fact, it should be changed. The basket should be changed, and they need to eliminate the medium and long term. Frankly, I think that for calculating real inflation, like looking at CPI, they need to get rid of cars. They need to get rid of used cars. They need to get rid of TVs. They need to say like, okay, housing, keeping that house lit and heated or cooled, depending, and then keeping the people inside of it eating enough food and flushing toilets, right? I realize I realize it sounds perverse, but it should be in that case. Unfortunately, it should be a basket of the very base things required to survive, and for no other reason than this is that if you're letting cars and TVs swing the inflation enough, I'd be like, look, and we said it before, you consume a car every 5 to 7 years?
Yeah, or a TV about the same cadence too.
Let me tell you. Aaron goes through eggs like Gaston. Life has been hard.
Anymore, though.
Life has been hard on this man. He is wasting away before my eyes.
It is, yeah, dude. Look how skinny I am now, dude. It's bad.
I bet he can't even drive 300 yards. I don't know how far you drive.
Yeah, no, it's bad, dude. It's bad. Dude, I was at Topgolf with my coworkers, and they were like, "This guy, I thought he golfed in." No, I'm just kidding. They're all blown away. But no, but I seriously, like, not bragging, just saying. But like PCE, I think is something that I think to your point, CPI. What they need to do is they need to do like a discretionary and what would be the opposite of discretionary?
Core. They say like core CPI. They need to just amend what core CPI is.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, and I don't care if you include TVs in there. Like
I don't either. And I'd even allow for accounting disclaimers, an accounting-esque disclaimer every now and again, where it's like, look, CPI is up, but that's because eggs have gone through the roof. Everything else is like 1 or 2%. Eggs are up 70. So it's like the Dow Jones. Like there's a reason that we look at percentage change, not point change.
Yeah.
And more importantly, there's a reason that Aaron and I look at S&P and NASDAQ.
Yeah, exactly. Not
the Dow.
Dow.
It's because Dow is price weighted.
Yeah,
The rest are not.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, we want to look at real swings and then not Google had a bad day.
Yeah, so that's the thing is I think that's what ultimately it needs to come down to is, we need to get that under control. And that's the thing is like, I think, okay, so let it sit at 5%. Let's see what happens. Let's see how it brings down CPI. Let's see how it brings down PCE and go from there. But why are we talking about a pivot? We don't need to talk about a pivot anymore. We just need to just kind of see how everything plays out.
Pivot's way too soon.
There,
it's like,
if the Fed can fix the avian flu and grow more chickens, if the Fed can do that,
well, then get on it, boys and girls.
Then Jerome Powell, hurry up.
And JP, you know what? You can take your eye off the ball for a minute. Fix the flu.
Right.
But I'll be honest. Seems like it's out of his bailiwick, so it seems unfair to put all that pressure on him. Janet,
absolutely.
Maybe this is your zone. This is your bailiwick. I don't know. No, it's not. Not yours either. It's strange. It's something outside their bailiwick. Having said that, and I have no evidence to back this up except anecdotal, and even then, it's not really evidence. It's not even anecdotal. This is a waste. It's a red herring. I'm wasting your time.
Yeah, that's a good.
And there has been a little bit of inflation here, and I accept that. I'll go in and I'll see what I can do at this. But guys, do you know who's never gotten the avian flu? That's right.
Who?
Neither Aaron nor myself. And I think that's because we have some sweet Drunkonomics swag.
Oh,
I'm not 100% certain that's what it is.
I'm not either.
An old job I had, my nickname was Bird. And I regret saying that out loud.
I don't know if I'm gonna call you that ever. I'm sorry, James.
No, and you shouldn't. It was
Okay.
it was I worked at a pool store when I was 18, 19, 20.
Pool as in like
Or to
Leslie's pools or like billiards?
Swimming, yeah. I worked at a Pinch a Penny.
Oh,
Worked at Pinch a Penny in Orlando, Florida.
I don't know if we have any
And,
Drunkonomics swimming bathing suits. That'd be maybe that's
We
next
don't, but we should. I'll see if I can get
we do have
Pinch a
Drunkonomics
Penny on board to.
Yeah, but we do have Drunkonomics tank tops though, so that's close enough.
We
right?
do, which you know what? That'll cover for the trousers. We also have hoodies for when you get out. We don't have towels, unfortunately, but we do have metal. We do have metal mugs and glasses for when you're in the pool. We have let's see, we have some sweet hats. Like I said,
we have
look
dog
great on the
bandanas.
beaches in Puerto Rico. Should you have pets, we have dog bandanas out there. We have regular bandanas too.
Yeah. From there, if you want to help us out in other ways, if you have too many, not enough closet space, you have too much merch already, you can always go to
Story of my
Patreon.
life.
Yeah, same here. You can always go to Patreon, patreon.com/drunkonomics, DRUNKUNOMICS. You can leave a tip in the tip jar, help us do the what's that called again?
It can help us keep the ice frozen. No, the ice frozen and like
Ice frozen.
Keep it ice in the esky so we can do our pink Aussies. You can help us acquire some maple syrup bourbon because frankly I've had Vermont-esque breakfasts in that I've had bourbon with maple stouts. I've never had maple bourbon with a favorite stout.
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna have to.
Yeah, exactly. And from there, seriously, really enjoyed drinking with you guys. Thank you so much for joining. My encouragement to you as you take on the rest of the week is to continue to fill and kill.
Be like Joe Burrow this week. Play chess, not checkers.
Do what you can. I mean, you got to fight the zebra somehow.
Look, if the referee gets there, you still played a better game.
Yeah.
Patty Mahomes over there with his checker set.
Yeah.
I regret nothing.
You can only control what you can't control. Just like, I can't control the Fed and the Fed can't control the avian flu. But from there, seriously, my encouragement to you is to do that one thing from the after you don't brag and just say it. What's that one thing?
I'd appreciate if you write us a review. Tell a friend about us or an enemy.
Oh yeah,
I don't know. It depends on how you're feeling.
Nice, yeah.
Whatever you can do, it helps us out. But most importantly, whatever you're doing this week, stay drunkonomical while you're doing it.
Yes. Cheers.
Cheers.